Okay, so we have a finished robot, and what we want to do is um, add, basically unwrap all of the polygons on this mesh. So one thing I've done on my model is I had a seam down the middle and I welded all the vertices together. That's not necessarily something you have to do. It depends on where you want to place your seams. So in this case, it's something you could do, but it's not something you necessarily have to do. Okay. All right. So the goal is you basically want your model to be pretty much how you like it before you do this next step. So if you're going to get rid of any vertices or move anything around, you want to make sure you do that before you do this next step. So once you have your model the way you like it, you're going to right click on it and convert to editable poly. And what that does, it applies all of the modifier changes on the right here. Okay. And then the next step is we want to go to the modifier list and you're going to type UV mapping clear, UVW mapping clear. All right. And what that will do is it'll clear all UV mapping if you have any. All right. And to apply that, you just right click, convert to editable poly, and that should clear everything else. Okay. Okay. So the next step is we're going to cut the mesh up, and what we need to do is think about where we want, which faces we want to draw on for our texture. So we obviously want something for the face, the front, the body, the arms, the legs. Those aren't really particular on what side you draw on, but the face, the head has definitely a different face in the front than it does in the back, and the body looks a little bit different. So we want to cut kind of along the sides for that. The legs, the shoes, and everything else, we can pretty much cut wherever is easiest to cut. Okay. And by cutting, I don't mean we're actually slicing. We're going to be making seams in the mesh. So here we go. Next step is, before I move on, I'm going to save this as, I'm going to UV unwrap. I'm going to call this one version 2 because I was experimenting with it. So you can call yours UV unwrap. That's fine. All right. So here we go. We're going to go to modifier list and type in, or start typing UV unwrap. And the modifier that we want is to unwrap UVW. If you then click on it, it'll open up some new panels over here on the right, and I'll explain those in a second. If you see anything green in your UV map, you need to add that modifier to UVW mapping clear. Make sure all the mapping is cleared out. Okay, but I don't see anything on mine. Everything is pretty much white edges, so it should be good to go. All right, so for the panels on the right, I'm going to move them around a little bit because there's some of them we're going to use a little bit more often. So the peel panel, I'm going to move that up a little. And let's see, I guess a little bit, I guess it's already there. So peel, I must have already done this earlier. So peel and projection are some of the panels you're going to use most often here. And I think they're usually listed down below. So to move them, you just grab this handle and you can move things up and down on the toolbar over there. All right. Okay, so the next piece is we're going to go to edge select. All right, and then in the peel section, we're going to select point-to-point seams. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is pretty much define where I want seams to be. In order to draw on models, you have to flatten them out. Kind of like how when you see on a globe of a map, it's all kind of flattened. It's cut up into pieces like orange peel. This is going to be similar to that. Okay. We don't have a round face. We have lots of different shapes here, so we have to decide kind of where to cut it. So I'm going to cut around the front here first. And when you're doing this, you'll notice it's going to hover over any edges and they turn orange. And when you select them, they turn blue. The blue seams are the ones that are going to become permanent. All right, so I'm just going to come around and you can grab multiple seams if you want, as long as you see that the pattern is going around. The first seam I want to create is this seam that goes around the face. So there's going to be just a flat seam to cover up everything on the face. So I'm just kind of cruising along. I'm highlighting it with orange just to make sure it knows what path I want. So that's the first seam, just an outline of where the face is going to go. All right, and then the next seam, the rest of the head I'm just going to cut into a kind of bigger pieces. So I'm going to cut one down the middle. So this seam that goes down the middle. Okay, and that's going to go down the back. Okay, so I see that I have my panes in the way, so I'm going to turn the visibility of those off so I can move around the model without having to worry about that. All right, so keep that seam going. For the neck, it's going to be a different texture than the head, so I'm going to go around the loop where the neck connects to the head. All right, so that's basically the first one, and your model might be a little bit different. Some things might be similar, but basically you want something for the face because that's going to be all one texture. And then the head you can just cut into half like that, and that should be fine. Because I'm just going to paint when I do the texture for the head. Maybe even just use one color. If later on you wanted to add more details, I'll discuss that, okay, on how to do that. But you just basically add more seams if you want more details to your mapping. All right, so that's good. I pretty much just cut the head in half, or have a seam along the half, and what will happen is this part of the mesh will kind of split in half around the bottom, and it should lay fairly flat. We'll see how it goes. If we need to cut more seams there, we will. All right, now I'm going to go work my way down, and I need the seam around the bottom of the neck because the neck is, like I said, has its own texture color. Okay, so that'll be split up by itself. The only thing I do need to have in order for it to lay flat is I have to put one seam in the bottom just to cut it in half, and it'll basically just lay flat like a rectangle. All of those faces will lay flat. Okay, so the next piece is the body, and like I was saying, I think the body, I want to make the seam along the sides because I want a bigger bunch of polygons and stuff to draw on the front and the back. So I'm going to make the seam along the side of the body, and yours might be like mine where it's not perfectly cut along the sides, and I don't even have like a seam that goes straight through here, so I have to kind of work my way around, but it'll be something like this. Just choose a line to go down, and then I'm going to go around the arm because the shoulder and the arm will have a different texture. And just kind of keep down. See how it's going around like that? That'll work. And just using Alt and my middle mouse button to select these things as I go. Okay. All right, and So keep going down, and then on the bottom, I'm going to go around the leg. All right, I think it doesn't matter where you go, just another kind of similar to the loop that you had around the neck and the head connection, kind of similar to this. So I've done it a few times, so I'm kind of fast at it, and I'm also kind of slow depending on how you're looking at it. And then I'm going to keep going across, and then around the other leg. Oops. If you hold Alt and click, it deselects one, by the way. So if you make a mistake, you can do that, and you might accidentally deselect something if you're using Alt to turn around. That's kind of what I just did. All right, anyway, there we go. All right, so loop around. And you don't have to click on every edge. If you just move the cursor around and make sure that the orange outline is kind of following the path that you want, you should be good to go. All right, so now I'm going to come back up. I think, let's see what happens. Come back up that side of the body. Yep, that's fine. All right. There we go. And I'm going to kind of follow the same path that I had on this side of the body that I did from the other side. So there we go. It looks like I went through the front. It is a little hard to see sometimes, so you got to zoom and move around. Okay, so whenever you finish a seam, you just go to some blank area over here and right click, and that turns off that tool. Okay, so I have cut the body. That's pretty good. Now I want a seam along the arm. Okay, and a lot of your seams you want to attach to other seams in some places. It's just easier that way when it comes apart. So I'm going to follow this line, even though this one's kind of in the center of the arm. I'm going to follow this. And basically for the arm, I'm just going to cut it straight down the middle, or the top, I guess. Okay. And I'm going to go around, I guess, this loop for the hand. Let me think about that. Let's see. Yeah, let's see what happens here. I'm not going to have a lot of details on the hand, because it's just I think it's the same color in the drawing, so I'm not going to worry about too many seams around the hand, but I guess, whoops. It's kind of easy to get lost in here. There we go. So just loop around, I guess it's the wrist where the hand touches. Just make sure you finish off all your loops. Okay. And I think I want, yeah, I think I'm just going to cut the mitten, or the hand, kind of down the middle and see what happens. I think if it's sliced there, it might be okay. Like I said, I'm not going to put a lot of detail in there, so I think that's going to be fine. All right. Let's cruise around the other side, and I want to do something similar to the other arm. All right, so I'm going to pause so you don't have to watch this the same steps. Okay, so I have both arms and the hands with seams that I like. And I've done a lot of work here, so it's probably a good idea to save. Okay. And then the last piece is the legs and the shoes. So I'm just going to go kind of follow this all the way down for the legs. And then the legs and shoes have a different texture, so I'm gonna loop where the legs are attached to the shoes. And see how I accidentally selected that, so Alt click. Doesn't like that. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Let me hit escape. There we go. All right. So if you ever have to escape, you just can kind of pick up where you left off. And try to be careful as you're doing it to only create seams where you want them. All right, so you have that orange line is kind of your guide. Okay, so that's one side. I'll pause and I'll do the other side. All right, so both legs are finished. I got seams around the top, around the bottom, and one seam down the middle, so those will flatten out nicely. And let's do the shoes. So I'm gonna, for the shoes, I'll just start a seam down the back. And let's see. I think if I go around the middle, that might give me, I mean, the shoes also, I'm not really going to do too much with those either. So I guess I'll just go follow the seam down the middle. If you wanted to put like something, like it actually looked like a shoe or something on top, you could create your seam around this seam and just kind of cut it in half as well. That would allow you to draw maybe something like a, I don't know, shoelaces or something if you wanted to. But I'm just going to have mine all be pretty much the same color, so I'm not going to worry about that. So I just have one line that goes down the middle. It's just going to cut the shoe in half, and I'll do the same thing on this side. Okay, so that's the first step. You want to take your time and make sure you have seams everywhere that go around the robot, all right? And that's going to allow us to create layouts for this UV, and then we will be able to paint those. Okay, so let's see. I want to make sure. Okay, so I'm going to save it again, and I will probably stop right there so that you guys can catch up, and then I'll do another video for the next step.